Hey everyone, today we're going to dive into something called permaculture. Now you might have heard the term, but it's way more than just a fancy word for gardening. It's a whole philosophy, a potential blueprint for a much, much better world.
I mean, let's be real. You see it, I see it, the signs are everywhere, right? Resources are getting scarce, our environment is under a ton of stress, and a lot of our systems just feel like they're creaking at the seams. It really feels like the old ways of doing things, traditional farming, city planning, they're just not cutting it anymore.
But here's the thing. What if the answer isn't about fighting harder against all these problems? What if it's about working with nature instead? And honestly, that's the beautiful idea right at the heart of permaculture.
So let's talk about this more hopeful way forward. Because permaculture isn't just a bunch of techniques. It's really a movement, a whole new way of thinking about how we can live more harmoniously.
Okay, so what is permaculture, really? You've probably heard the word thrown around, but let's actually break it down. Because it's one of those things that sounds complex, but it's actually incredibly powerful and super practical. All right, the word itself is a mashup of two words, permanent and agriculture. So, permaculture. Simple enough, right? It was coined back in the 70s, and the whole idea was to create systems for growing food that could last, well, permanently. Systems that are sustainable and can take care of themselves, kind of like a forest does. It's all about looking at nature and saying, okay, how can we copy that? And if you remember just one thing, let it be this. The absolute core of permaculture is to work with nature, not against it. So instead of trying to force things, to bend the land to our will, we observe, we learn, and we design systems that fit right in with what nature's already doing.
Now, this isn't just some vague, feel-good idea. Permaculture is built on some really clear, practical principles. And the best part? They're all borrowed directly from nature's playbook.
Let's look at a few. Observe and interact. That one's huge. It basically means just watch first. See where the sun hits, where the water flows, before you do anything. Then there's catch and store energy. Think rainwater barrels, solar panels, anything that captures resources when they're abundant. Produce no waste is a big one. It's all about creating cycles, where your kitchen scraps become compost to feed your garden. And integrate rather than segregate? That's just about making sure everything works together, like a well-oiled machine. Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but where does it actually work? Well, this is where it gets really cool. The amazing thing about permaculture is that it's not just for big farms in the countryside. We're talking gardens, cities, and yeah, even beyond that. This is a key difference. A lot of conventional systems need huge plots of land, but permaculture, it can thrive literally anywhere. It's all about smart design, not just size. You can create these incredible, productive systems on rooftops, balconies, community gardens, you name it. It's all about making the most of what you've got.
Now, I gotta be clear, this isn't an overnight thing. A permaculture system grows and evolves over time. In the first few months, you're getting your herbs and veggies. A year or two in, your perennials are getting established. Then after a few years, boom, you start getting fruit from your trees. The real magic happens after about 5 to 10 years when it becomes this self-sustaining food forest that pretty much takes care of itself. It's a long game, but man, the payoff is huge.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've talked about gardens and balconies, but what's the big picture impact here? Why does this really truly matter on a larger scale?
The benefits are all connected. It's pretty incredible. First, obviously, there's the environmental sustainability, but then there's the economic side. When you're not buying a bunch of external stuff, you save money. These systems are also way more resilient to shocks like droughts or floods. And, when people work together on these projects, it builds real community. It all ties together.
And this brings us to, well, the elephant in the room, climate change. This isn't just a nice-to-have hobby. Permaculture offers some seriously powerful tools to help us both mitigate and adapt to what's happening. It's a proactive solution, not just a reaction.
Okay, brace yourself for this next stat, because it's a mind-blower. A study from the Rodale Institute found that if we applied regenerative agriculture practices, which are like the heart and soul of permaculture, on a global scale, they could absorb 100% of our current annual CO2 emissions. Let that sink in. Not 10%, 100%. That's not just a small fix, that's a potential game changer for the entire planet.
So where does that leave us? Look, permaculture is so much more than a gardening method. It's a totally different way of seeing the world. It's a framework for creating abundance, for building resilience, right where we are.
It shows us that by working with nature, even our own small actions can have a massive impact. And it really leaves you with one powerful question to think about. What if your backyard, your balcony, your neighborhood, what if that's where building a more resilient world begins?